Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis. I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation, and I'm joined by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Tommy, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well this morning. It's brisk out here in Southwest Ohio, Northern Kentucky area.
Yes, sir.
It's cold. We're getting some snow. But it's good to wake up in the morning to that briskness, fill my lungs with some clean, brisk air to really get the day started. So it's been a good day.
Right. I like that, man. I don't always like the cold, but I do like the seasons.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a beautiful thing, man, that we are in a place that we get to experience the seasons. We get to look and see the snow on the ground and see how beautiful it makes everything look, man. And then get to see how bad Cincinnati drivers are.
Yes, sir.
I mean, always in the ditch somewhere, man. Just overconfident. I ain't never seen a place like this, Tommy. Overconfident. Out on the road, zooming by you. You see them when they zooming by you. And I just say, I'm going to see you down the road in the ditch.
One way or another. Good luck with you. Right? Good luck.
Because I'm chilling. Right. I'm chilling. I'm in no hurry. And I still like to go, man. So I get out and do my little old man thing. Shoot,
yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got a car with 4-wheel drive. How was your week?
The week was good and challenging at the same time.
Okay.
The good thing was that we've been asked by a number of different organizations to compete and submit some proposals.
Right.
To do the work. That's the good thing.
That is.
The challenging thing is getting those proposals done in a timely fashion. So
hold on. Let me just take a moment. God, he's not complaining. He's not complaining. He's not complaining, and I'm not either.
And so here's one thing that happened this week in my proposal writing. Mm-hmm. So Eric, some of my best writing is either very early in the morning or late at night.
Okay.
Right.
Same here, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know historically I've pulled those all-nighters and got some of the best, most clear thoughts out.
Right. Right.
And oftentimes when I'm doing that, burning the candle on both ends of the stick, everyone else, it seems, in the world is asleep. Definitely in my house. Right? So this past week, man, when I was preparing to work on or continuing to work on one of the proposals, I was going to start the proposal writing around 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of wrap up my time with my family, watch a couple of shows, decompress. And my wife came down and she made me some tea.
Okay, and come on, man.
Yeah, she was watching television. So we watch a lot of music videos and stuff like that.
Right.
So she was watching videos and I'm jamming and I'm writing, I'm jamming. Next thing I know, it's 1 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock. Right. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. And she was right there with me.
Yeah.
Right. And so I have to thank her for doing this very important and subtle gesture of support.
Wow.
Because I usually do this by myself. So
yeah,
that's one thing that I'm very, very happy and proud about this week.
Right. Well, I'm excited to hear that as well, Tommy. That's important, man. It reminds me of the movie that I just watched last night by Denzel Washington, The Little Things. It is the little things in our lives that can make a huge difference. Just that kind of support, just looking over there and knowing that she was there while you're grinding it out is a beautiful thing, man. And I don't know if we do that kind of thing enough. I was able to do that with my wife. She's just had so much going on, man. She said, Eric, can you put together a presentation, And I just stopped what I was doing, sent it to her. She didn't even have time to recognize that I sent her anything. But then right before the meeting was about to happen, she was looking through and saw an email from me, and it was like a nice gift that I had put together, a little PowerPoint in there for her. So
Yeah.
Those things are important.
Yeah.
Our week, man, was fantastic. You know, a lot going on, Tommy, you know, personally and in the business. From a personal standpoint, my wife and daughter are in Columbus with one of my daughter's very best friends who is in hospice now. So just want everybody that knows the words of prayer to remember that family because her friend is, you know, a young mother, 3 children, a husband, and they really are struggling for each day. And so my daughter's there in many ways, sort of being there supportive of her. But a lot of times, you know, people haven't known really closely anybody that is dying or has died. And so, you know, just have to remember them in our prayers because it's a sad scenario. But you know, I'm grateful for how things are going overall. Just grateful for how things are going throughout our family. You know, Eric's in California doing his thing with music, and you know, all the kids, everything's going good right now. And I think that that's a positive thing. The topic that we want to talk about today is self-awareness. And I just think, Tommy, I've been thinking about the times that we're living in and the fact that we can be looking at the same picture and see different realities. And so it's something that you and I focus on a lot in our businesses. But you know, I think that somewhere between self-awareness and cognitive bias is a place that we need to spend more time as a society. And so, you know, I want to just share some things and love to have our community weigh in on your views around self-awareness, because if we can't see ourselves accurately, if we can't analyze ourselves, it really makes it difficult for us to develop meaningful relationships. It makes it difficult for us to be effective in any kind of business or any kind of career. So one of the things that I want to encourage people to do is to gain greater self-awareness. Tommy, why is that important for people to have a good amount of self-awareness, accurate self-awareness?
So one of the reasons, Eric, is that from a business perspective, there's this concept called reputation or brand reputation. And brand reputation is not what the organization thinks its brand is. It's what the consumers or the customers think their brand is. For example, Mercedes-Benz. There were some studies done many years ago around the brand of Mercedes-Benz. And Mercedes had surveyed folks and asked, you know, when you hear the word Mercedes-Benz, what comes to mind? Folks said
Right.
Luxury. They said expensive. They said reliable. They said German. Right? They shared all these things. And Mercedes-Benz said, I don't know if we ever saw ourselves as those things.
Right.
I think we see ourselves as an automobile manufacturer.
Right.
Right. And so folks are like, oh yeah, that's what you are as well. So from an individual perspective, it's important to have self-awareness because people outside of yourself and their experiences with you will really tell you who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll tell you who you are in that moment, who you are over an extended period of time, and who you are versus who you used to be. So self-awareness is important, I believe, to examine personal growth, right? And so that's why I love self-awareness, because I am not the same person today than I was 20, 30, or 40 years ago at all.
Right.
And I hope that has been growing.
Right. And the thing that you and I certainly encourage organizations to do is to be constantly engaged in reflection as individual leaders, as organizations, so that we can gain, you know, and then take time analyzing, thinking about, practicing self-awareness, and then trying to determine the accuracy of our self-awareness by getting feedback from others. So as I get feedback from others, It helps me to get a sense of the balance between how I see myself and how the world is seeing me. And so that gives me a sense of the accuracy of the way I look at myself. I was reading a couple of articles. I just want to read a couple of things just in your hearing. And then we're going to talk about possibly some ways, techniques, things that people can do to increase their self-awareness. Self-awareness means the habit of paying attention to the way you think, feel, and behave. More specifically, it means looking for patterns in the way we tend to think about and perceive what happens to us, how we explain things to ourselves, and make sense of the world around us. It means understanding our own emotions and moods. Instead of trying to avoid or fix how we feel, we observe and stay curious about our feelings, even the difficult and uncomfortable ones. Tommy, as you listen to that, what does that say to you?
Well, it says a couple of things, Eric. One, it says that I believe that it may be easier said than done with regards to recognizing one's emotions and one's view of themselves. That the older we get as human beings, sometimes the more sophisticated we get at lying about ourselves to other people. Because the things in our past that are less than positive, sometimes they're negative. Sometimes we don't want to share that piece of the story, right? And we may continue to live pieces of our negative psychology, our negative experiences in the current day, right? And I find myself to do that as well. There's some things I'm holding on to that is 10, 20, again, 30 years old. I'm still holding on to it. And I'm lying in certain aspects to myself because I've said I've gotten over that. Right. Remember, we talked about forgiving and forgetting. Yeah, I forgave. I never forgot. So I'm still kind of in that mindset of maybe intolerance, maybe disrespect, right? So that's one. The other is that I think it is difficult to self-examine yourself outside of getting feedback, honest and candid feedback from other people. I think that when we operate in our own bubble, in our mind, we can become very egotistic, which is an emotion, ego. And so that's the loudest voice. It's about protect me. It's all about me. You know what you're doing as far as me. And that's not always a true sense of self.
And what I would say, Tommy, is that, so we've heard the old adage that too often people are spending too much time working in their business as opposed to working on their business. I think that in our lives, we spend too much time operating in ourselves as opposed to on ourselves. So I'm going to suggest that one of the things that we can do is, and Tommy, this brings a degree of excitement to me. As a student and as a learner, and as an educator, this gets me excited. That if I were to think about really objectively analyzing any of the places in my life that I experience conflict and difficulty, instead of being in it, and so when we're in it, here's what our mind does. Our mind is ego-centered. Our mind is, our brain focuses on protecting us. So my brain is not helping me out in real time. In real time, my brain is saying all kind of crazy stuff. Go, boy, go. You're winning, go. I mean, that's what my brain is saying. And that ain't helping me. And so sometimes we've got to get outside of that real time psychology where our brain is supporting us. We have to back up and create some free moments, Tommy, where we do a diagnosis on the conflicts we experience in our lives. And we begin to say, now, why is that gets me mad? What am I mad at? Why am I mad? Is there something else that's happening that I can't control? And now it's frustrated me. So before I deal with what you've said, how you've operated, how about take a look at and spend some time dissecting my own reaction to things?
Eric, so there's this simple equation. It's coming from the R factor, and it's just basically it's E plus R equals O. E is the events that we can never control. R is our response to those events. We try to control our response, and sometimes we are emotionally hijacked that we are not in control of our response. We're just responding. And then O is the outcome, which we cannot control. We really cannot tell the future. We may have a desired purpose or outcome, but we can't. And so when we're in events, conversations, and situations, our self-awareness, as you said, is to, in real time, see what's happening, what is really going on, what are the facts that we know of, what are the opinions that we're experiencing, what's the loudest voice in my head that's driving my thoughts and maybe potential mindset around this conversation.
Right.
And then be humble enough within myself when there are negative or what is called maladaptive thoughts or behaviors to suspend those thoughts and behaviors. So when I'm like, you need to stand up for yourself because the point that Eric is making, it's wrong, right? And then I suspend that to ask more inquisitive questions. Tell me more, Eric. Right? What do you mean by that? So help me understand. And then, Eric, here's the kicker. With wisdom and self-awareness, you start to look more long-term. In other words, when there's an event that happens, you move 5, 10, and 15 years ahead. Will I really remember this event? And sometimes when the response is from a self-awareness perspective of, no, you ain't gonna remember this, then you just listen. You go ahead.
Right.
You don't respond.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, Tommy, in business, let me ask this basic question. Good morning, community. So glad that Brooke is with us, James, Kenny. Oh man, we got the family here and others that have joined us. So glad that you all are part of this conversation. I lost my thought too. I had on the way of saying welcome to everybody, but it'll come back to me. This notion of self-awareness. Say the last part of what you were saying before I welcome the community, Tom.
So I was sharing that that E plus R equals O, and our response that sometimes we have to look more long term when we're in the event or in a conversation in the situation, because some events do not warrant our response, especially if we are self-aware.
Right. That's exactly the point that brought this thought to mind. So let's start with our the business environment. Does arguing with a client help or hurt us in business?
Tom? It hurts us.
Right. What are some of the things, because arguments with clients, with people that are sophisticated like you and I, is not an all out, I disagree. It's subtle sort of sparring, right? Subtle sparring. What are some of the things that drive us to subtle sparring with clients?
First and foremost, I think it's ego. That's the first thing, Eric. That in sparring with a client, it's I know what I know, and I'm very familiar with this space. And
hold up, Tommy, time out. Why you gonna start with ego? That's so cold and yet so true. Continue.
That's where I think it begins. And then we also say that the client doesn't know what it's doing in this space, and that's why they're asking us to participate in this dialogue in the first place. Because if you did know, we wouldn't be here. That's one of the first problems.
Wow.
The second problem is where there's a lot of when combating with a client, there's a lot of internal noise in our heads. We have our ego, we have our knowledge and experience, We have our will and desire to be right.
Mm,
We have our will and desire to bring value.
right.
All of those different perspectives are clashing together, and it creates an energy to be combative, to be
Right.
argumentative. And
Right.
so that's when we engage in that combative discourse with the client, because that energy is in our head. And I don't think that's good. And that negative combative energy is not good for a partnership or a relationship with the
Right.
client or with anyone else for that matter.
Right. And then there is, and somebody said, hurts our narrative from the past. So Brooks says, yes, ego that has been triggered from the past. And for people of color, for women, oftentimes we have been left out, overlooked, discounted, disrespected. And so that's always hovering over our heads. Are we being disrespected again? Are they not listening to us because of fill in the blank? And so those narratives are running tape in our mind that sometimes causes us to sort of burp out something that's not in fact effective. Tommy, have you been in those situations? What's the conversation that you're having with yourself? And how do you, what are some of the strategies that you employ to sort of get yourself out of that defensive mode or that minor sparring with clients? And then we're going to bring this to our personal lives.
Yep. So Eric, I'm in these conversations all the time. And basically what it boils down to me in my engagement, especially with larger clients that have a lot of employees, a lot of resources, financial and human, a lot of networks and tie-ins. And so as I mentioned with ego, one of my loudest ego stances or statements is they're the big guy trying to crush you, right? And so my ego is basically around fight or flight. That's it. So when I'm in these conversations, I'm always battling. Do I need to really fight them to make a point? And I'm going to stand on the shoulders of my ancestors. I go all the way back to that, right? Or it may be something as simple as, $10,000 is nothing to you, multi-billion-dollar business, but $10,000 is something to me because it can pay for the mortgage for the month, right? At the office. And so that's the fight mode. The flight is you're about to get crushed. Your brand and name is going to be mud. You'll never get another opportunity with this company, or maybe even in this industry, if the company goes out to say, don't work with them ever again. Right. And so I want to flee that. I don't want that to happen. And so I am always having to balance that. And that balance, what it looks like is, Eric, all right, here we go. I'm going to say this and I'll be done. For those outside of me, those in the room or those who may not know me as far as my integrity or my mode of operation, sometimes it looks like like I'm selling out.
Right.
Like I'm acquiescing.
Right.
Right. Hey, Tommy, I know you ain't gonna let them talk to you like that.
Right.
You've been doing this for 30 years, and they talking about they started this a year ago and talking about that they know more, and you didn't even say nothing.
Right.
So that's one thing I did. I didn't necessarily flee. I froze. So it's fight, flight, or freeze.
Mm-hmm.
So I was frozen. And that frozen, what I do is, one of the techniques is that I constantly work on clearing my mind throughout the conversation.
Excellent.
I do. I constantly.
Excellent.
What am I hearing? What am I hearing? Right? I don't want to pass any judgment. I don't want to cut to the chase. I don't want to add anything that's not being said. Because that's very, very important.
Right.
Because if I'm in my own head and I'm trying to add commentary, add narrative, it's not always that. just like for me, when I'm sharing something, I'm not always talking in code, right? I'm saying what I'm thinking. And so
Right.
when some people come back and say, here's what you said. No, I said what I said. So I have to work on not passing judgment on what people are saying,
Right.
try to get more clarity on the message and what they're
Right.
saying.
Right.
So that's one of the techniques. And then the other techniques is that I literally just ask other people to help me understand when I need to understand differently.
Right. I'll tell you. So, Tommy, I absolutely appreciate everything that you said. Dr. Bishop Wright has weighed in
Yes, sir.
with the perspective that I'm going to push back on a little bit. Bishop Wright, he says, I have a different perspective. I don't engage in sparring, but I have an obligation. I love that language, an obligation and responsibility. And then he ratcheted it up as a trusted advisor to help them see what they can't see in the moment, help them see the consequences of the proposed direction. I agree with the spirit of what you have said here, Doctor. But sometimes that doesn't always wear well coming out of my lungs in the heat of the moment when there's a lot on the line.
Yeah.
And so I think that let me go here. It's going to be like a rabbit trail, but I'm coming back. I have said one of my criticisms of the evangelicals and their love of our past president was that they sort of left faith and wanted to go to works and what I can see. It's almost like they got tired of waiting on God to answer my prayer. So I'm going to get with give me a king, God, so I can get what I need right here on earth. And so I think sometimes as a consultant, sometimes it's hard for me to trust that I can get this done over time. And so when people say ignorant things or things that may not be right, sometimes in the spirit of Dr. Wright, I'll pounce on it with my obligation and responsibility as a trusted advisor. But it doesn't always come out in the best way. And so what I'm saying here is that sometimes I have to, like Tommy, you were saying, let some of these pass. Let some of them pass and have the faith that over time, I'll have another opportunity to come back and address that. In other words, don't jump on it, because when I jump on it too harshly, I'm shutting them down. I'm, discouraging them. And I'm going to go back to what you said, Tommy, about pride and ego. I just got to go back there and say that for many of us that have studied and prepared ourselves, sometimes that is what is that's where our indignation comes from sometimes, is that the nerve of you. You know how long I've been doing this, how many times and so I think that we have to arrest, that's the word I'm going to use. We have to arrest that feeling inside of our heads. And I'm going to say that when you have the gift of knowledge and insight, sometimes what comes, the sort of the extra prize that comes with that is arrogance and ego. And I think, Tommy, we have to really watch those guys because they make everything else look uglier. And so what I want to do because of this conversation, here's what there are a number of benefits from sort of self-awareness: better relationships, improved moods. In other words, we'll feel better, clear thinking, and better decision-making happens as we begin to operate in higher levels of self-awareness. And so what I want to do is, like I was saying, just like you're watching a videotape, it's so important for police officers who have body cameras to go back and watch those tapes to kind of see how I operated throughout the day. I would say that when we're in conversations, there is videotape that's rolling. And I'm going to suggest that we have to slow that tape down and analyze more sort of wisely, moment by moment, what behaviors, what actions I'm taking, and then what is that delivering to the client? How is that affecting the client? And I was just telling you about a situation where I was in the midst of one of those. I want to become better at being more humble, being more patient, and having more faith that the God who has prepared me and given me wisdom will also help us make it through this moment. And I'll have a chance in the long haul to come back and get something instead of pouncing on it right now. I think the other thing that happens in business, Tommy, is that there is money on the line. That's the other thing, is that this is about business. And sometimes when they are saying do the train the trainer, it's not simply that they're not skilled to do that. Sometimes it's going to impact the bottom line. And so there are some difficulties then, and there's some emotions that happen around that sometimes can hijack us. I think that's the language you used.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's both, on the business side and personal, Eric. Personally, I'm always, because of the environment that I live in with my home, my friends, even with last year and this year with COVID, my relationships with people have changed. And I've had to look into my own self-awareness to see what part did I play in the change in that relationship, right? So, to be friendly, some say you have to first show yourself as friendly to be friendly. So if I have friends that I haven't talked with in maybe 6 months, 9 months, maybe even a year, right? Sure, we haven't been around each other because of strict COVID and folks because of their jobs, especially many of my friends work in environments that if they are not there, the business would change.
Right.
Right. And so they have to protect themselves to protect their family and their lifestyle. Hey, I don't need to come around you. Right. And I'm like, I understand, because I'm not going to pay your mortgage. Right. I got my own mortgage to pay.
Right.
So these are my friends now. We all talk to each other like this. But if I haven't called them or Zoomed them or just reached out to them, and I'm upset, man, I haven't talked to my man in a year. My self-awareness says, what have you done? Right? What have you done to reach out? So as we're having this conversation between you and I in our community, the question really lies
now,
each individual asking themselves, what have you done? And where has the greatest challenge been with you able to identify your self-awareness? It is easy, Eric, for me to talk to you and tell you about what you're not doing.
Right.
It's easy for me to tell the community what they should do.
Right.
It's difficult for me to really look at myself and hear what other people are saying about me, which is the truth or half truth, right? Sometimes made up, and not be able to say, is that really me? Do I really behave that way? Do I really, speak that way or think that way? And the resounding response is yes, right? And I'm like, nah, I still don't believe all 100 of you, right? That's where the problem is. So I'm having to still work with myself and self-awareness with regards to my wife, my children, my friends. It's a work in progress.
Now, Jason has said so much stuff that we done blotted out the sun. I can't even see Tommy right now, but we're going to go through it. Pride will always cause you to want to be right instead of righteous. How will God consider my response is how we have to consider not just the knowledge of being right. It's hard because many times we are always the one biting the tongue. But judgment starts in what I say, because in my words are life and death in all my circumstances and situations. He's a preacher as well, but there certainly is a lot in that. I'll tell you this, Tommy, as I think about, so what you and I have to do on a regular basis in our jobs is we have to be having a conversation out loud while a conversation is going on inside of our head. That's the nature of our business, is that we are talking to people, listening to people, and then developing responses to the things that they are saying. One of the things that I've been doing a lot more of here lately, Tommy, is somebody will call me up and they'll say, hey, I want you to be a speaker. I want you to be a consultant. And you know what I do? I ask a bunch of questions. And I just keep asking them questions like it's an interview. And they're looking at me like, well, I called to ask you to be a speaker. Now you're asking me 1,000 questions. Well, with every question that I ask you, I get greater insight as to what it is you may need. And the more questions that I ask, the more knowledge and the more alignment I can create between what I recommend and what you need. And so one of the reasons why you and I are successful to a certain point, community, I want y'all to hear this. One of the reasons why we're successful to a certain degree, I want to put emphasis on to a certain degree, is because of a sufficient level of self-awareness. But I'm going to suggest that the distance between where we are and where we want to go is in greater self-awareness. In other words, Tommy, as you and I continue to expand our ability to see ourselves more accurately, we then we increase our potential to achieve our best selves. If we keep saying that I'm fine right here, then I'll just continue to get what I'm getting or possibly put it at risk. And I think that one of the things that I want to commit to is I want to commit to greater levels of self-awareness. I want to commit to more analysis. I'm going to go back to that. I started it and then I didn't finish it. Greater analysis, where I'm taking the tape, the videotape that's happening, and I'm slowing it down and I'm reflecting on it. Reviewing, what did I do? How did I operate? Because I do remember, I'm seeing these things in real time. But then I want to go back and say, okay, that part of the conversation didn't go as well. What choices did I make? How did those choices help us get out of conflict? How did those choices take her into greater conflict? And so I want to scrutinize that. I want to scrutinize that with an eye toward not saying that I was right in the choices that I made. That's the problem, Tommy. If we say we're right in the choices that we made, then we have no chance to grow and change.
Eric, I think you're spot on. And I see and I hear the community sharing their thoughts. Thank you, community, as always. I think that this continues to be a very important topic that we're talking about, self-awareness. We come together every Saturday morning, Eric, with our community to talk about different concepts of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And everyone that's in the community, they're not DE&I experts. Everyone that's in the community, they may not be connected to a business or run a business, et cetera. They may either work for an organization or they may not at all. We don't know the backgrounds and the whys behind why everyone joins us on Saturday mornings. For some of us that are joining, they're joining in Eastern Savings Time, Eric. It's 9:30 in the morning. For some of us, they're out west. It is 6:30 in the morning when they're joining.
Very cool. Right.
Yes. And so we don't know the why, but I know for a fact I'm not on at 6:30 in the morning having this conversation. Right?
Right.
So what does that mean? That means that when I'm self-aware, I build empathy for others and their journey. Connect. Right? So as we're connecting right now, I'm aware of what I have to do and where I am right now. And then I realize everyone is not where I am.
Right.
what what is it about them that's getting them up and going,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's motivating them, that's inspiring them.
That's
And
right.
when I'm asking that question, now I'm literally asking the question of them. Tell me about yourself, right? Terry, tell me about yourself, or whomever. Uh, I'm going to come back to a point that I want to make after we go to Julie's point, because I learned something in a training I did with a client, not last week, but the week before, and it was around this topic of self awareness. And I'm going to
Mhm.
share the exercise, if you don't mind, Eric,
Right.
and then
Excellent. Excellent.
share exactly what the gentleman said that was very eye opening for me.
Okay. So Julia said, have people lost self-awareness as a result of too many Zoom meetings and things that are not in person? I think that self-awareness, my view is that it's diminishing in part because we are operating more in silos. So I believe that what's happening is that where people used to get a diversity of perspectives because they were hearing from other folks, now everything is sort of, we're selling stuff in tribalistic silos. And so we're living in echo chambers where we are hearing our mindset reinforced over and over again because we're choosing to hang around people like ourselves. When we are choosing to hang around people like ourselves, it doesn't give us enough challenge that may then cause us to scrutinize whether my perspective is right or not. When I'm hearing the same stuff bouncing off of walls back to me, then I believe it's truth. Research has been done that says that people's behaviors are impacted more by their beliefs than by facts, and their beliefs are shaped more by their relationships. And so I think that that's what I would say, Julie, is that we've got to get people, and I think that sort of off of Zoom to some extent and more into relationship building. If you can build some of those relationships on Zoom, hey, that's fine. But I think that that's part of what's creating a lack of self-awareness is we're not hanging around with enough diversity that which would give us challenge to our worldview.
Yeah, I would just briefly ask Julie, and I think that's a great question. I would say that I don't know if it that people have lost self-awareness rather than they're simply not self-reflecting as much.
Right.
So I believe that we're aware of what we want to be aware of in ourselves, but as we continue to grow and age and have different events and experiences, we're simply not reflecting. And so let's take the emotional intelligence perspective. You have four different components. The first is it's called self-awareness, but in emotional intelligence and diversity, it's called affirmative introspection. So introspection is looking at oneself. Affirmative introspection is correctly looking at oneself.
Right.
And then you have self-governance, understanding the whys behind your behavior. So now that I'm experiencing more Zoom meetings and things of this nature, social media, I'm allowing that content to really govern my why, right? Without really self-reflecting on what is my true why and
Right.
what's attracting me to that energy, that content, those relationships. And then you have intercultural literacy, and intercultural literacy is understanding the whys behind others' behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that their emotional state may change how they think, speak, and behave in any event, right? In other words, if I call myself a good guy and you've always experienced me as the good guy, and then something happens in my life that really angers me or frustrates me, or I even have pity on myself because of that event, and now you engage with me, and that's the straw that breaks the camel back, and I behave out of the norm. Tommy, what's wrong with you?
Right.
This is not like you. It was always in me.
Right.
That was an event that brought it up, right? So right now, I'm not Mr. Nice Guy. because I'm experiencing things directly or indirectly that has me in this emotional state.
That's
Right?
good, Tommy.
So the last is social architecting. So social architecting is now that we are aware of the whys behind others' behaviors, we're aware of our behavior, we're experiencing constant self-reflection. I'm creating relationships and environments that everyone benefits. That's important. Back in the day, we learned about the golden rule: treat others as you would like to be treated. That was back in the day.
Right.
That was selfish. Treat others as
Right.
you would like to be treated.
That's the platinum.
As if everyone wants to be treated like you.
Right.
The platinum rule is treat others as they would like to be treated.
Right.
So when you are self-reflective, you understand about why you're being exposed to this information. What is driving you? What's motivating you? What's demotivating you? And then you begin to think about, when you're truly self-reflective, think about how your speech and actions have impacted others, even when they haven't given you feedback. That's the tough pill. Yep. We say things or we do things and people just swallow or bite our tongues or bite their tongues, and they don't give us feedback. So we think that behavior or speech is fine. I can continue to talk like that, right? I'm not self-aware that everyone is saying, you're a tyrant.
Right.
But you're in a position of power, and we're threatened by giving you feedback because of what you would do. It's called stereotype threat. We don't want to get all into everything, but there's a science behind this.
Right.
Absolute science.
Right. Let me say this about Julie before we move on. Julie Grady Hurd, number one, she was my very first client. So I've known Julie for probably over 40 years or close to that. I worked with her with En-ROADS when I was the managing director of En-ROADS. Julie, we had interns with Huntington Bank. And then when I started my business, she was my very first client. The thing I loved about Julie is Julie was brilliant. Julie was the kind of client that when she spoke, you better be listening, because she has thought about a lot of things when she speaks, and always very self-aware, brilliant. But she garnered so much of my respect that I always paused whenever she'd offer an alternative or another option of something to think about, because it had been taken through the fast brain that she brought to the table, not just a fast brain, but high character and integrity as well. And so really, I just celebrate her. So glad that she's still engaged now in the arts community, in diversity and inclusion. She's a real leader in that space. So we appreciate her joining in. Tommy,
Eric, real quick. Let me jump in here real quick. I have to do this because we're talking about self-awareness. Let me give you a real-time example of self-awareness. Let's go back for just a moment, community. Eric had posted a comment from Julie. The comment was very concise. Eric then gave his thoughts on that comment with regards to, have we lost self-awareness? And then I give a comment and I kind of expand on that comment, right? And then after I finish my comment, Eric talks about his historical biography and relationship with Julie. In my mind, in self-reflection, what do I say? I'm saying, did I say anything in my comments that could have been offensive to Julie? Such that Eric is talking about Julie in a positive light, her thought process, etc. The other thing that's going through my mind is, no, I don't think I said anything that was offensive. Right. I just gave my opinion. The other thing is, I'm asking myself, why would Eric say what he's saying? Right. And I don't know why. I'm just asking myself why. Right. So I'm looking at myself. What did I say? I'm looking at myself. Is what I said, how did it land on someone else, Julie? And then I'm looking at myself from the another third party that's referencing Julie, the comment, and knows me.
Right. So that's
That
so powerful.
is
Right, right. And so now here's the rest of the story. So this is what we need to know. Tommy, what you just did there is a real-time example of what happens in every day of our lives. And sometimes we are paralyzed as a people by our own thoughts.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I'm going to do. Tommy's got a puzzle piece. It's the puzzle piece that's in his brain. But guess who's got the other side of it? I do. So now I can answer the other side of the puzzle. So now he can decide. So here's what happened. Julie makes a comment. I make a comment about it. Tommy makes another comment. I'm still thinking about my comment in part. I'm still thinking about Julie in part. I'm hearing Tommy is making some bright points, some very wise and powerful points. And I'm saying, hey, that's good. That's good. That's good. I'm not thinking at all about his comment in relations to Julie. Not zero, not one thought. Other than, hey, Tommy, you holding it down, man. Boy, you sound good. Tommy sounds smart right now. That's really good. So those are the thoughts that I'm having. Yeah. And then I'm saying, hey, I love Julie. I want to make sure that I remember to say how I met Julie, you know, because I like affirming people. That's what's happening in my mind. Now, here's what happens to us.
Come on, Ed.
When we are thinking through situations, we assume that it's because of racism or something like that. And that tape, we play that out so fully that that's the reason why they didn't call me back. Racism. That's the reason why they didn't call me back. They don't like me no more. So we played out the whole thing in our mind. It's unreflected upon because it's circulating simply in our mind. But sometimes when we go get the other piece of the puzzle, and God had to show me that. Yeah, because I was saying too often, Tommy, wow, I think there are people against me. And God was like, hey, bruh, there's way more people for you than are against you. Don't let your mind lead you to some place that's not reality because you didn't reflect on it. But if you never open up your mouth, some people said closed mouths mean, you never get fed. If you don't open up your mouth sometime, and that's a hard thing to do, Tommy, that was miraculous. What you just did is you played out in real time all that was going on. And because we have a trusting relationship, you know that what I've said back to you, you can receive. Yes. That's the other part. Sometimes we don't have all the confidence that somebody's going to speak back to us honesty. So even if they tell us something, we say, no, I'm going to hold on to what I was thinking.
So needing that extra piece.
Right.
Eric, you said it. Because we're in our own head so much in every event, right? And time is moving by, right? Time is moving by. And I know you have a comment too. I was getting some feedback last week after our show by my wife. And my wife gave me some feedback about how I look on the show.
Okay.
Right. So we had the Slaughters, right? And she said, how do you have the camera angle? Right? I said, well, it's on my laptop and it's on my desk and I'm sitting in the chair. I said, yeah, I see that. She says, let me give you some feedback. I know you. When you are listening intently or start to think, you look very serious. Here's what it looks like, Eric.
Right.
I don't react. I'm listening.
Right.
I don't listen like this. Yeah. I'm listening.
Right.
No, what the Slaughters were saying, I was trying to literally take it and apply it to my life. I was being very selfish. Like, this is good stuff for me. Right. And so I have to listen. And then I have a question because I'm building, I'm growing. And she says, everybody doesn't know that when you look that serious, Tommy, that you're not mad. You're not angry.
Right.
You're learning. So she says, every now and again, just smile. Right. So today, if you all go back at this broadcast today, Penny, I hope
That's
I'm
right.
making you proud. Yeah,
That's right.
I got to hit you with some smiles. I can smile and laugh with the best of them.
Right.
But please, when Eric is talking to me and I'm learning and the community is writing and I'm learning, I am learning. And I shamelessly steal all these great ideas, embed them in my training, right? And I share them with clients and they're like, Tommy, you're great. And I'm like, it was last week's diversity conversation show.
Right.
That's
Right.
how I'm making it, man.
I love that, Tommy. And I'm going to co-sign that. So we're talking about videotape. We're talking about external views that give us feedback of ourselves. The beauty of me having seen myself on videotape enough is that I then get a chance to evaluate what I see. So I remember I was watching a number of speeches that I give, and I can give a couple different type of speeches. When I'm talking to the community and it's Martin Luther King Day, sometimes I got that Martin Luther King. We got to get this together. This is serious. I'm there. And I'm feeling so civil rightsy, if you will, Tommy, that I'm giving them the civil rights look. And I looked at the civil rights. I looked at the civil rights look. I said, boy, why is he so mad? And so I've realized, Tommy, that when I'm at my best, it's like a great song. I'm ebbing and flowing and ebbing and flowing. And I've got to give them a diversity of views, that people enjoy diversity. They enjoy the part of me that is funny and tells jokes, and they enjoy the part of me that's intense and maybe charismatic at times. And so I think that, but the point is, Tommy, as we talk about self-awareness, you have to have ways of sort of journaling your life, capturing your life, so that you can reflect on what is being displayed, so that you can make adjustments. So that, remember when we had the old radios where you had to kind of turn it, you had to you adjust it, and then the station was somewhere in between. You had to tweak it. There it is. Okay, don't touch. Okay, that's what you have to do with your life, is that you have to tune it. You have to fine tune it so that you can create better alignment between what you're delivering and what's going to land the best in your relationships. That's what self-awareness helps us to do.
Hey, this is a great conversation. Eric, once again, and the community is chiming in. I appreciate Dr. Wright with your thoughts, your reflections, and everyone else. Yeah, Eric, I'll throw it back over to you, man. This conversation has me going. It's energized me this morning. We're talking about self-awareness this morning.
So let's bring it back here, Tommy. So let's bring it back here. This is what is driving me to self-awareness. We're in a broken world right now. Everybody's walking around thinking they're right. I mean, we literally have people storming the Capitol. Tommy, they are storming the Capitol. Talking about stop the steal. Okay, so I have a couple of choices. Either I can sit back and be entertained by their ignorance, or I can say, is there any place in my life that I'm operating just as ignorantly? You see, when I'm in a disagreement with my wife or with my children, how many times is God sitting back and saying, why is he saying that? He's missing the whole point. He's responding to the words. He missed what underlied those words. And so what I'm saying, Tommy, is that while we are all so focused on fixing a broken world, we oftentimes miss the opportunity to take control of that which we have the greatest control over, which is our own behavior in the world. And if I sort of, I'm reminded of that poem that says, "I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day."
Yeah.
When are we going to take time to do more reflection on how we are showing up in the world? Because if I can show up better, then I can be more effective at creating a more robust, a healthier world around me. I was looking at CNN one night, and I saw them interviewing a number of Trump voters in the county that voted more for Trump than any other county in the country. And they were asking the people, is there anything that Joe Biden can do to gain your support? And you know what they said, contrary to much to my surprise, Tommy? If President Biden can just bring the country together. Huh? I didn't expect that, man. I didn't expect all those people sort of humbly to say that they're looking for the same thing that you and I are looking for, Tommy. And so I just think, man, that if we allow God to keep working on our self-awareness, if all of us work on ourselves, and so I'm asking you, so that's what's driving me in this conversation. I'm looking at a country that's headed towards civil war. I see people playing with it as though this is a time for jokes, which is not. And instead of sort of saying, woe is the world, the question becomes, where am I missing the mark? And then are there other things that I can do besides fight that will enable us to achieve more harmony?
And I think the short answer to that, Eric, is yes, there's other things that we can do besides fight. There is. I mean, I don't want to be over dramatic about it. I want to be very sober about it. Yes. We don't always have to fight everything.
That's it. And so I want the community to weigh in on this. How are you doing with your self-awareness? When you find yourself in conflict, is your brain, your mind, always blaming the other party? When you look at yourself, I hate to say this, that oftentimes we hear the term the race card, and that's offensive to us. When somebody says, there y'all go using the race card. I'm asking us now to consider, how often is racism the reason that I lost versus a lack of preparation being the reason that I lost? And how long are we going to sit back and coddle each other and not provide one another with helpful feedback? And when we do that, when we coddle each other, sometimes we don't allow us to gain greater self-awareness that would allow us to make adjustments that are necessary in order to achieve more success. I know, Tommy, that a lot of times the reason why we weren't paid what we were worth, we didn't ask for it.
Right.
We didn't even know it. And so I can't blame that on somebody else if I didn't know. So I just think that Ken is saying it's difficult to come out of my echo chamber. I need help seeing my blind spots.
First of all, I would say to Ken, and we love Ken Wilson deeply. Thank you for sharing. I'll tell you, those in the community that have been a part of our community for some time, you may or may not know Ken Wilson. Smart guy, intelligent, savvy, charismatic, funny, funny,
right?
Funny.
Yeah, stand-up comedy is in his future still.
So those who heard funny 3 times may think that he's just about jokes, right? Good looking too. Good looking. So he is all of that. But just like any comedian, not that Ken is a comedian, any comedian, we want to speak our truth in a way that people can receive it and give us assistance. In other words, he says, I'm in my echo chamber and I need some help seeing my blind spots. I'm like, I'm with you. We have these blind spots. The first step of identifying blind spots is to acknowledge and recognize that we have blind spots. Because if we're not self-reflective, if we're not self-aware, then we may think that all is good, right? So what Ken is saying in a short couple of sentences is we're in our own heads, we have our own blind spots, and the question is, where are you going to get help? Do you have an outside group of people who are your mental board members who are telling you the truth? It can be friends, family, it can be professionals. Are you surrounding yourself with everyone that thinks like you and gives you high praise? Yes, man, and yes, ma'am, right? Or are you really trying to be your better self? Really trying to be that, right? Easier said than done. Easier said than done.
Yeah, and the thing is, and I love what Kendall has said here. It's hard to get a new idea. It's hard to get a new idea from Echo, right? I mean, so boom, 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 right? That ain't nothing. I can't do nothing with that. It's bouncing back. So we got to get outside of our echo chambers, man. You can't get a new idea from Echo.
Hey, man, Kendall. Hey, I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. What do you think? I must be the greatest. It's hard to get a new idea from the echo.
That's echo. And so we have to make sure that that we are not operating in that place. I have so often I know in my head, but I am not owning it emotionally. I love that, Brooke. So I know it in my, let me speak about that. In a disagreement, family member, they're saying something that my first reaction is, yeah, I agree. I can see that. But then something in me says, why are you coming at me like that? That ain't the whole story. So then I'll take the minority view and argue it without ever affirming what they said I actually agree with. And so what I'm saying is that as you are engaged in more self-awareness, you will begin to recognize your pattern is to choose defensiveness as your first response, as opposed to acknowledgement and affirmation that what you're saying, I see too. Yes. I'm gonna tell you right now, community, over half your arguments could be eliminated by stopping the defensive response first and start with the affirmation that says, you know what? I agree with that. Now, here's what my brain goes to. My default thing is, come on now, why you always being negative? I told you. So now I go to a technical response. I've said this before. Give me positive feedback first, then positive. So I go with a formula. Yeah. Instead of responding with my overarching view that's happening in my head when you're saying it, is that's right. That's correct. Why not say that? And I think that it's been covered, Tommy, because it was covered in my brain. It's not covered when it's covered in my brain. The only thing they can react to, just like you said earlier, this is what was happening in my mind. The only thing I can know is what you finally say. Then when you told what was happening in your mind, we could deal with that. So the first thing I got to do is say, hey, thank you. I agree. That was helpful. And then I'll tell you what, Tommy, you know what I've discovered? That sometimes there's no need for the other part. There's no need for the defensive part. When I just acknowledge, I agree with what you said. And so what I'm looking for in the world around us is for all of us to engage in a higher degree of self-awareness that may bring about greater unity and greater relationship. Because what Tommy and I know is that one of the techniques that is useful in bringing down conscious and unconscious biases is building diverse relationships. So the people that you think in society who are wrong are not going to get better by you yelling at them that they're wrong.
Right.
That's not going to do it. So if your objective is for us to get better as a society, yelling at them that they're wrong is not going to do it. Trying to build relationship with them may have the opportunity to do it. And then saying that I'm not going to take every opportunity to show you the error of your ways. I'm going to build a close enough relationship that maybe you'll decide to ask for my point of view because you trust me. Right now, Tommy, I'm hearing the Democrats say there's no use in trying to build relationship with the Republicans. And you know what? There's a part of me that just absolutely agrees with that. But that's throwing in the towel, Tommy. That's throwing in the towel. I think we got to do better than that.
We have to do better than that. Eric, I think you were spot on. Absolutely, with regards to, kind of bridging that gap between differences. And so if there is a ideology, an opinion, a culture or a community that is very different than your own, and you are kind of diametrically opposed to their beliefs, values, and principles. In self-awareness, we have to ask ourselves, why am I not reaching out to bridge that gap?
Right. Come on now.
Why am I not? We have to take ownership of that.
Right.
And then we may come to realize that there are some phantom rules, such as they won't accept me.
Wow.
That's a phantom rule. If we've never engaged with that community of difference, of diversity, of anything that's unlike ours, if we've never engaged with them, how do we know as a fact that they won't accept us?
Right.
So we put up that phantom rule.
Right.
They won't accept us. They won't hear us. They won't change. They can't change. Right. So we have to literally reframe those negative self-talk messages. Social and behavioral scientists, Eric, they say that 95% of the things that we fear never come true. 95% of the things we fear, which are in our head, fear is an emotion, they never come true, right? So we experience something, I fear that this is the end of the world. It's been the end of the world since the beginning of the world.
Right.
Right. Or I fear that, they won't accept me. Do you really want to be accepted or do you want to be heard? Two different things.
Right.
Two different things. And then now you self-reflection. No, I just want them to hear me.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about them accepting you. Just speak your truth. The discourse that we have in our communities, in our businesses, in our country, that line of demarcation has been expanded. That gap has been expanded because of the mixed definitions of common terms. A common term of respect, a common term of unity, a common term of love. Those common terms have been redefined by multiple parties. Respect is not to review. That's what it actually means. Respect is to review. Respect is not to review. Respect is to get you to understand what I'm saying. What? I never knew that was the definition. It is now, right? Love is to do what I want you to do. I never knew that was the definition of love. It is now. Unity is when you do the right thing. It's not when I do the wrong thing that separates us. The cause that created the effect of divide. It's when you acknowledge that it's divided and do the work to bring us back together. I don't have to be self-reflective. I'm not self-aware. Love and unity and respect is your responsibility. And that's when you are not self-aware, either individually or collectively.
Love it. So now let's look at what Tommy said. So now, Tommy, you've said a term that I'm gonna come back to. Never heard it before. Your term, but I've got one like it that you probably never heard before. So Tommy said, this is so powerful, y'all. You right here this morning, diversity conversation. You getting some meat this morning. He said that a lot of times the barrier between us and our relationship with others is phantom rules. Man, that's powerful. Phantom rules. In other words, you already put something together in your mind that you have taken to be the gospel and truth, and it's a phantom rule. I call it paradigms to justify failure. And so I see a lot of times, Tommy, in corporations where they say, well, why don't you have more diversity? Well, the good ones, we can't compete for them. I mean, they go to the P&Gs and the GEs and Toyotas. I mean, that's a paradigm that you've put together to justify failure. Yeah. I will say to you, phantom rules, paradigms to justify failure is where we are as a society. Is that we've come up with these blockages in our own minds that allow me to become comfortable not doing anything, but sitting back and commentating about the failure. At some point, we got to get out of the sound booth. We got to get off the sidelines of just commentating what's happening in life, and we got to check ourselves into the game. And we've got to begin to move away, remove those phantom rules or those paradigms that we have to justify failure. Because as we begin to adjust those, Tommy, we are preparing ourselves to be integral clogs in success and creating greater success. And whoever can do that will add greater value to the society that we're in. I think we all need to see ourselves as contributors to that.
We all need to see ourselves as contributors. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask the community as well. Eric, this is a personal question of you, a personal question of our community. As we're talking about self-awareness, self-reflection, kind of talk about the positive things. This is not to be egotistic or arrogant. Eric, what do you like about yourself?
That's good. I do like myself. Mm-hmm. And so I like that the joy that I feel on the inside, I'm always looking to get it to the outside. Yeah. I love to hear the sound of laughter from people that I'm engaged with. Yeah. And so I like that, man. I like that about myself. I like that I never give up. I don't quit. I don't believe that failure is the final chapter. I love that I'm still going after life, that every day I get up with a sense of excitement. I'm getting ready to meet with Tommy Lewis today, but we're going to get something out of this. And that life usually meets my expectations of excitement. That's what I like.
Yes. And thank you.
Let me answer that question.
Yeah, and asking the community to share what do they like. I appreciate it. What do I like about myself, Eric? Like you, I do like myself. I like what I am becoming.
Yeah.
This journey, I do. I like the fact that I can really pause to look back at my life and see my development. And I honor and praise God for the experiences that He has afforded me, good, bad, and the ugly. And I like that the story that He's planned for me. I like it. I like living in His glory.
Woo.
I like living in His glory.
Right.
I like the silliness in my head that breaks up the seriousness and the intenseness, right? From music and throwbacks to remembering old times by watching videos or looking at photographs. I love that I can disconnect while being in the present, right? I love that.
Right.
And then I also love about myself, Eric, and this is a heavy word of love. I do love I'm going to use the word intense. I do and love my intense passion for people.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I love the science of people, physically, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, spiritually, everything that is involved with people. And where did we come from? I love that I am interested in that.
Mm.
And I've been blessed to create a business to connect people and learn from people. And I'm just people watching, people studying.
Right.
I love
Now
that.
let me say this, Tommy. So Tommy and I have been talking now for hour and 20 minutes. And we had planned a beautiful agenda. But I'll tell you that God blesses both the things that we plan and the things that are unplanned. And so what you've introduced us to right here, I don't think I've ever done it in my life. And yet it's a gift what you just did. And I affirm everything that you said, Tommy, about what you like and love about yourself. And I want our community to weigh in, because Tommy, I don't know how many times you've ever done that in your life. You think it inside yourself, but how many times have you been able to speak that out loud, to hear yourself saying what you like and love about yourself? And what you want to do is you want to be in a community, in a place that when you do that, that people are sitting around saying, yeah, I like that about you too. Oh, that's new. Man, I'm so glad to hear that, because I see that, but I've never heard that. And yeah, that's Tommy. That's Tommy. It gives me even more confidence. I like what Tim Carpenter says here. What I like and love about myself, my intuition and the ability to forgive. This is my new barber. Hey, y'all, I want to say this right now, that this is my barber now. I've been looking for a long time for a barber. And I went to him again last week, and I tell you, he loves his craft, and he puts that love into what he's doing for you. And I just don't find people, man, anymore today, Tommy. All these services, every one of them is Hollywood now.
Yeah.
It's more about them than it is about you. Because they going back to Vegas or somebody, they work with the stars, so they just, just biding the time, messing around with you. But he's one that honors. Let's go. Who else? What did Kendall say? Kendall says, I love my curiosity, my creativity, my compassion. Kendall, I love hearing that, man. Kendall is a consultant. He's an internationally recognized consultant. He is an author of a beautiful book that's coming out here shortly. And as a preacher and as a lover of people, he brings that compassion. When you say that, Kendall, everything inside of me affirms that and says the world is better because Kendall C. Wright is in it. Who else has said something about Ken has asked?
You got Ken, you got Buddy Ken.
Right. Let's get
talking about your barber.
Right. My ability to love first. Buddy, I love that, man. And I think that so we come to the world square. Here's how we do. We come to the world even. I think your job is to, when you die, advance the ball. You ain't got to change everybody in the world. Just advance the ball. If you come here and leave here, don't do no damage, then it's square. But boy, if you have children and love them, and maybe you add something to the community, you can advance that ball. My ability to love first, loving is one way of advancing the ball. Anita says, I love my smile. It's easy. True. My patience, my creativity. I love that about you. And I want to say this, Tommy. I want to say this about what you've asked us to do. There are so many people right now, Tommy, that have been isolated. They've been sheltering in place. They might not have anybody else in their home. And I'm going to tell you what the enemy is doing. The enemy is constantly giving messages. You're not enough. You're a failure. The economy is going to take you down. You're never going to get a job again. That's what the enemy is doing, is giving you all those messages of depression and discouragement. You're going to get COVID-19 and die. People like you are going to die. You're going to give it to your kids. The things that you've done in your past going to catch up with you. So that's what's happening in the backdrops of our minds. And so what you've asked us to do, Tommy, is you called upon our spirit and our mind to converge, to say, what do I like and love about myself? I want you to say it out loud, because when you can say it out loud, all I'm going to do is affirm you and say amen. And that's what you want to be. You want to be around people that can affirm the things that are true about you. It ain't all about everybody just giving you feedback to get you better. Sometimes it's about people hearing you talk about what you love and like about yourself, and they sit back and say, I love that too. That's why I'm in relations with you. That's why I'm connected with you, Tommy Lewis, because what you love and like about yourself, I do too.
Yes, yes, that's what this is about, Eric. This is about, so when you have this self-reflection and you're articulating what you love about yourself, what you like about yourself, those around you who are actually in support of you, we say, be you, do you. We also turn around when we see and hear that you're not being you and doing you, we say, that ain't you. What are you doing? You're trying to be something else.
Right.
And so you may have lost your sense of awareness, your sense of identity. When you are thinking, speaking, and behaving in a way that's not truly you, we are saying, that ain't you. Now, on today, you said, here's what you are. Here's what you love. Here's what you like. Do you. Do it. And maximize it.
And maximize
creative, right? Maximize it. And what does that mean? It doesn't always mean it's profitable, right? It doesn't always mean that no one else is going to appreciate it. It doesn't mean that. It means that you are doing what, who, and whom's you are, even when no one else is around. So for myself, when I can laugh at myself dancing, thinking I can do today what I used to do back in the day, I'm laughing like I used to do that.
Right.
In my mind, Eric, I still can.
I still can, until I twist myself up into a pretzel.
Yep. In my mind. My mind. And so my mind is my greatest tool. So if I'm in a down spot, right, a down place, a down environment, I can transition my mind, giving praise, thinking of those things I am, thinking of those positive things. And in the moment of Armageddon, I'm like, I'm good. Are you good? Nope. Then join me in the goodness.
Right.
That's in relationship, and that's through some self-awareness, because I wasn't always there. I wasn't always there. I was running that old negative movie reel, right? And I was filling it with stories that weren't true. Eric doesn't like me because he didn't respond to my email. So-and-so doesn't like me because of what? Or I'm not getting business with that organization because my name is mud in the organization. I don't know that to be the truth, but that's filling me up. Right now, I'm like, well, God, you've always opened opportunities for me. Let me look around for that new window, because I'm standing in front of this closed door, mad that the door is closed and locked.
Right.
Woe is me, pity me, but I'm creative. Let me turn there's the window. That's what I'm
Right.
saying, E.
And so we're going to go, I'm going to announce that we're going to go a little bit over time, and I'll tell you why, because Tommy, you've gotten us into something here. I want to have the community, and let me say this to you. I love what I'm about to say, that too often we are in places that we cannot bring our authentic knowledge of ourselves to that place without throwing somebody off. Tommy's invited you to come to this community and say, this is what I like or love about myself. And I'm going to tell you that we so desperately need that. Tommy, before the show, the broadcast came on today, here's what Tommy was saying to me. Eric, I was looking at something and I saw a big body of people over there. And I said to myself, he said, I was looking at it and the content was okay. He said, but what I saw was that maybe one of the reasons why they had so many people is because they were focused on controversy. And so one of the things that I've been asking psychologists is, how do we make the positive more attractive and appealing? I think this is one of those ways.
Yeah.
This is one of those ways that we need to give you space to speak about yourself. And then what we're going to do is we just going to sit back like a good community should. And we're going to say, I hear you. I affirm you. That's good. Because right now, in this country, in this world, people are going out of here, Tommy, over anxiety, trauma, stress, depression. Psychologists are filling up all over the place right now. And what Tommy Lewis is saying to you is affirm what you like and love about yourself. And what we're going to do is we just going to cheer you on. Jason says, I love my love for strong families and marriage. He loves it so much that he's dedicated his life and his wife to an organization, Love Lockets, that really speaks on relationships and trying to build those strong families and marriages. Let's see. Dana said, I love that I have found a way to do the things I'm good at.
Yeah.
Tell me, why is that important? I love that.
Oh, I love that too. I love that too. That's the journey, Eric. That's the journey. We try some things that we like, not necessarily love them. We try some things that we thought we loved and we end up hating them because we, for whatever reason. But when we have, and Dan was spot on, have found a way to do, that's the action, to do things I'm good at. So that's when the mind, the passion, and the purpose matches the skill, competence, and interest. Now it's no longer a chore.
Say that again, Tommy.
Job. It's no longer even a risk. When you're doing things you're good at, there's always teachable and learnable moments in that goodness, right? But when you're doing things that you're not good at and not necessarily sure why you're doing it, it
Right.
becomes arduous, very painful, right? And maybe not as fulfilling.
Right.
It says, I love that I have found a way. I found the way to
That's
do
saying a lot.
the things I'm good at. Those words, that should be on a bumper sticker, on the tagline, right? It should be on the Goodyear blimp when it comes back into the sky, that people can look up and say, yes, or I'm trying to get there.
Right. And I will say to you that the word says, how can I see except God give me sight? And I would say that that's a lot of what happens with us. So in life, what you want to do is you want to live this life looking for what your purpose is, what you were put on earth to do. Because when you find that, which I have found, then you want to walk that out. I know what my purpose is. I was born to reconcile people one to another and to ultimately reconcile people to God. I am grateful that I've had the opportunities to be transparent. Tommy, I'm grateful that I have the opportunity every day to keep growing and learning. I love that part. that whatever I failed at in the past, failure does not have to be my continual operation mode.
No.
I can change in any moment. I can adjust. I can fine tune the way that I operate in this world. And as I do that, I increase the probability of my success. I was saying last week that I had a young man that listened to me speak for the Martin Luther King Day celebration for the city of Springfield. He said, Mr. Ellis, I'd love to connect with you. I said, hey, man, let's do that. And we connected a couple Wednesdays ago. And he said to me, he said, Mr. Ellis, am I wrong? He said, but me and my fiance were just saying, we're happy. We are so happy, but we broke. He said, but we so happy, but we're broke. And I told him, I said, young man, bookmark that feeling right there, because that's as good as it gets. Life don't get no better than that. There's no material possession that you can ever receive that will parallel the feeling of joy and happiness. I just thought about the song, Frankie Beverly, Joy and Pain, like Sunshine and Rain. I want our community to continue to weigh in. We're going to bring a couple back of what I love about myself. I missed one here. I love that I'm good at my profession and I enjoy it. Eric Ruffin, I've gone to church with Eric in the past when we both attended Solid Rock together. Eric Ruffin is one of the most successful businessmen in our community. And yet his heart of gold and his heart of humility and help towards others remains rich and strong. He says, I love that I'm good at my profession and that I enjoy it. Here's what I want to say to some of you. Take these words right here. Wherever you are right now, whatever you're doing, if you don't like it, keep looking. Keep your eyes open for what God has for you, what you can be good at and enjoy, because that's where you want to keep sort of unlocking ways of getting to purpose, but what you're good at and what you enjoy. I love my positivity, my flexibility, and desire to encourage and see people excel. I also love how easy it is for me to smile. What does that say to you? I went to school with Aliza, went to college together. How easy it is for me to smile. Tommy, that's hard for some people today, isn't it?
Yeah, it is hard for some people today. And here's one reason why it is easy for folks like Miss Beverly. It's called this juvenile essence. Juvenile essence, Eric. And what does that mean? That as babies, there were certain stimuli that generated in our brain some pleasure, comfort. And we could not move physically. We could not always articulate that innate feeling of pleasure. But with God and what he did with us to be able to communicate to our parents and loved ones and those who had to care for us, being dependents, is that smile. Sometimes it was a straight smile or crooked smile or a wide open smile. It was that juvenile essence as we began through our childhood years, those small things that really triggered us. What she is saying is that, and I'm interpreting this, there's something in her spirit that reminds her of pleasure and joy. And the articulation of that pleasure and joy is the smile, maybe even the laughter. So in looking at things, right, sometimes we just have to smile. And that smile can break the ice of tension, can break the ice of division, can break the ice of someone else's implicit bias about us. It's the smile. When we speak from the heart of smiling, we touch the heart of smiling. I would like us to use that this lesson, to see and exercise how can we see someone's heart?
Right.
Because everyone that's smiling on the outside may not be smiling on the inside,
Right.
right? But with her, she says she also loves how easy it is for her to smile.
Right.
That may be inside.
So here's what I see then. I see, Elisa, that she basically wakes up and she comes to, in many ways, and oftentimes, an angry world. And she comes to it with her superpower.
Yeah.
She said, I love my positivity, flexibility, and desire to encourage and see people excel. So I get up, I come to a world that's angry, and I come to a world that's being sold anger on a daily, moment by moment basis. I throw my cape on and I bring my positivity and my flexibility and my desire to encourage and see people excel. Man, you bringing something. And so when we go back to what are you doing to life? When you come here even. She's advancing that ball. She's chipping away at the things that are holding us back. And she said, I love it. This is what I love. That means I'm conscious of it. I'm conscious of what I'm trying to bring and the war that I am waging against negativity, inflexibility, and discouragement and frowns. She's bringing the opposite of that. And I think that that's powerful. That's just so powerful. There's more I enjoy. I enjoy what I do. The more God anointed me to be better at it.
Wow.
I mean, people are speaking today.
Yep.
I'm so blessed. How many of us can join in on that? I think we need, you know how they used to do chains around the world? Tommy, this is what we need. We need a chain around the world of people recognizing this is what I like about myself. In other words, this is what I'm seeking to give to the world. You see, nobody has said what they like about themselves is anything material. What they're saying they like about themselves is something that's eternal, something that's adding value to the world, and I get the good of it. You know, I tell people that I love music, Tommy. I love that I can sing and write songs. And you know what? I don't need to do that for anybody else. I get up. Sometimes I just go down to my studio and I make music just for me. And I'm just down there singing by myself. And I'm thanking God that he's placed a song inside of me. And then every once in a while, Tommy, I'll play those songs in the midst of a workshop. And I'll see the effect, the impact of what God has given to me as a gift. And then I recognize the purpose of that gift. The purpose of the gift is really, it can be a blessing to me, but it's more powerful to see it be a blessing to others. What gifts do you have, Tommy, that you are seeing that God has given you, that you're seeing be a blessing to others?
So one gift that I know that God has given me is literally the gift of relationships. Eric, I'm seeing that more and more and more. I have continued to be a part of different communities that look very different to me. And I have found that there are folks in those different communities that continue to appreciate me. Some of them love me, some of them just see me. And I'm thinking more specifically with my baseball community.
I love that, Tommy. I'm so glad I've seen you, Coach Tommy.
Yeah.
Coach Tommy.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, I am, myself and my son are the only African Americans on the team. I've been coaching them for 10 years now. Mostly the same family. Other families have watched our team and the way I coach, and they've asked to join the team and the culture. We call them the Kobliss family. And
Right.
so as I look around, and last year with some unrest within, some newness with our white families around racial inequity, those parents, my baseball community, asked me to help them and their children
Mm.
with understanding
Come on now.
the lived experiences of Black people and people of color,
Wow.
right? And I take great honor and privilege to connect my academic achievements, my degrees and diplomas in this space,
Right.
my lived experiences as a person of color, a Black man,
Right.
to bring value and influence a community that is openly sharing that they really don't know, but they trust me to help them know. Right?
Relationship brings
And
down
those,
bodies.
that relationship and those relationships, I know, Eric, I was placed on this earth. I know it. I know it. I was
Mm.
placed on this earth
Mm.
to do God's work without always saying it's God's work.
Right.
I want to be very clear there. I know it. I'm in corporations, I'm in
Right.
organizations, and I'm preaching the gospel, maybe through numbers and data,
Right.
maybe through some research of others.
Right. That's right.
But I know those who see and feel me say, wait a minute, man.
Something more here than them facts and figures that he presents.
Absolutely. And that's what I love.
I love that.
I get it.
Timmy Carpenter. I love that the barbershop is listening to diversity conversations with me and my co-host and good friend, Tommy Lewis. Let's talk about barbers before we wrap up.
Let's
Now,
do it.
I'll tell you this. The barbershop is the Black community's think tank. The beauty in barbershops. That's our think tanks. And I'm going to tell you, there's a whole lot of wisdom going on in the barbershop. Because for people of color, for me to trust you, to be up in my head, there's a bond there in many ways that's unbreakable. And the influence of the barbershop and for our brothers to decide to welcome our voice into their place of business is an honor. That's all I got to say is it's an honor. And I have so much respect for you all. You see, there's so many other things that you could be doing in life, but you barbering and you still here. You're still succeeding. You're still alive. You're still in the game. COVID-19 came to put you out of business, but somehow you found a way with God's grace to sustain yourself until we could sort of feel confident enough to come out of our sheltering in place, to get back in that chair and to take advantage of the work that you do to help shape the way I see myself. And that's amazing, Tommy.
The barbershop. I'll just share this tidbit, Eric. Those brothers in the barbershop, the barbers, I love you and I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
The barbershop is a place where opinions, facts, and experiences collide in a very civil way.
Right.
From the pitch, tone, and volumes of people's voices.
Right.
Being loud, right? Being that guy, that dude,
right.
Being the old sage and the wise griot in the corner, in the cut. To the barber who is running the business and caring for the physical image of men and women with their hair.
Right.
To the patron in the seat who is chomping at the bit to add value to the conversation, but can't wiggle and worm for they may get nicked up and look something. The barber senses that, pulls off of the cut and allows the brother or the sister to speak their truth and then fall back in line.
Right. Wow.
All at the same time the television or the radio is playing.
Right.
All at the same time. If the barbershop was full of the men and the young boys and the sister brings in her child, then there's some code switching.
Right. Respect.
Simultaneously and culturally, we have to shift our conversation such that we in the barbershop are not disrespectful of the ladies.
Right.
So don't tell me that the barbershop is a place that just cuts hair.
Right.
Barbershop is a cultural phenomenon. It's a place that people have developed a skill well beyond anything that schooling can teach.
Right.
It's a place for people to get right and to be challenged and to see themselves in the glory of belonging. That's what the barbershop is. If you have hair or not, we fall up in that spot just to get re-energized, maybe learn something new, get the word from the street, see what's popping. So the businessman is still rooted and woke, and the folks in the street may learn something from those who are educated academically or formally and all that good stuff. It is the ecosystem of education, and that is education is the intergenerational transmission of culture. That's the barber shop.
I love that, Tommy. I would also describe the barbershop as the Black man's love language from one brother to another. In other words, you see, when barbering is done well, a brother has taken time to evaluate what it is you want me to deliver, and with great care and great precision. That's why you see, when you see us show up anywhere special, the first place we go before we go there, Tommy, is where? To the barbershop.
The shop.
And if we are fortunate enough to ever have a barber that get the kind of job that we could take our barber with us, they take in the barber. Preachers will often have a barber almost on staff that will hook them up before they even go out to preach. There's something about the clippers and the wisdom and the precision of that barber that has delivered something to us that gives us an extra jolt, an extra boost. It's an espresso. It's Starbucks for us. It gives us something that gives us more. And in a world that oftentimes feels like it's beating you down, the thing that builds you up is what that barber did to your hair and those edges. And I mean, I was in there with Timmy this last week, and we was listening to music together, and he was just going around my hair, looking at every piece and taking pride.
Yep.
And he wasn't waiting, Tommy, to see if it met my standard.
Yep.
The first standard it had to meet is his.
Yes.
Not mine. His.
Yep.
He had his own level of pride of delivering excellence. You see, there's so much that we can learn from the skillfulness of the barber. You see, because a lot of people stereotype, they don't know the stereotype never covers what's happening in the chair of the barber. If you just looked at that alone, you know that we were worthy to be recruited into corporate America because we would be able to apply attention to detail.
Yep. Yep. Oh, good day today, man. A good day today. Where everybody knows your name.
Your name. Well, this has been a good day, Tommy. I think that, the wisdom water, the wisdom watering hole said by our guru, chief monk, preacher, pastor, expert, extraordinary author, Kendall Wright. Thank you, Kendall, for weighing in with us this morning. Thank you for all of you in our community that chose to join Tommy Lewis and myself. You've taken us into overtime because you've added something that makes our lives better. The first standard he had to meet was his own. And then we want to end with greatness. Any final words, Tommy, before we sign off?
Continue to be healthy and safe and wise. Make those wise decisions for yourself, for each other, for ourselves. Those who may not have the wisdom based on experience, reach out, share 2 cents, maybe a nickel, maybe a dime. Drop that dime, that positive dime, to not only bring the financial wealth, but that holistic human wealth, the wealth. So I would say thank you all for allowing us to go in overtime today. It's much appreciated. Be blessed, be healthy, be safe.
And I would say to you that, like many of you, Tommy and I have insecurities. And on some days, we even feel like what we're doing together may not have all that much significance.
Yeah.
And then you show up. And then you weigh in with your voice. And you give what we do relevance. You make us feel that what we're doing adds value and that somebody's listening. And if we can feel that, that gives us the strength to go through one more week and join you next week for another of these diversity conversations. God love you. God bless you. Love each other. Let's make a difference in the world. Be blessed.
Be blessed.